Top stories today: the legal challenge by Corruption Watch and Right to Know to have the findings of the Seriti Commission of Inquiry reviewed and set aside has been underway, and judgment has been reserved. For more on this story, let's cross to my colleague Sipho Stuurman, who's standing by. Sipho, judgment has just been reserved. Just tell us a bit more about this case.
Well, a very good afternoon to you and our viewers at home. Indeed, a judgment has been reserved here by the full bench led by Judge President Mlambo after, of course, early morning of arguments by Corruption Watch. And also we've had a state attorney also coming in here arguing that the presidency will abide by any findings of this court. Essentially, Corruption Watch arguing that the commission, the Seriti Commission that was looking into arms deal, did not do its job properly, that it exonerated implicated parties and that it ignored essential evidence. But to find out more a bit about the arguments that we had here today, I am joined again by Deborah Mutemwa. Again, thank you very much. Talk to us about the arguments that you made out in court here. You said, well, the commission failed to look at this some key evidence. But where do you get this information, and what is this key evidence you feel strongly about?
Yes, so it's really just from analyzing the report itself, as well as analyzing part of the record that we did manage to get access to of the actual proceedings of the commission. And we are strongly of the view, particularly after today, that it failed in its mandate to properly investigate. There were various reports and various pieces of documentary evidence that they could have considered. For instance, it's already been well known that the now disbanded Scorpions, as well as the Hawks, had over 3 million documents in their possession, and we are of the view that not even a fraction of those were properly considered by the commission. But there was a lot of offers from external authorities, such as from Germany and from the UK, to share evidence that wasn't necessarily taken up by the commission.
Now let's talk about the fact that the commission cost about over 130 million. So that is the Seriti Commission. So are you calling for a restart of the entire process?
No. So our issue is really with the findings. We feel that the findings are completely incorrect, and we do also think it's telling that the president himself has decided to abide by whatever decision the court comes to. We are not calling for a commission of inquiry. That is a presidential prerogative, but we do feel that now, with a clean conscience, the criminal justice system should start pursuing these allegations and should investigate further.
Yeah, but then it was also argued here in court that the findings of the commission are not binding, so the NPA can act anyway. So why this process?
Yes, and that's always been our view as well. They aren't binding. They are recommendations to the president. However, they do have effect in that they were used by accused people to exonerate themselves and to justify why further criminal investigations were not taking place against them. So our view is that even though they are not legally binding, they have had an effect. You've already mentioned that they cost the South African taxpayer 137 million rand. So if the argument that they aren't binding and therefore cannot be set aside should stand, then I think the South African people do deserve to know that commissions of inquiry serve no purpose to the public in general.
Thank you very much. Well, that's Deborah from Corruption Watch just stating their case there as to why they want the Seriti Commission reviewed. The full bench did say that this is a difficult situation they find themselves in, where they have to look at the findings of an inquiry that essentially did not find anybody guilty of any wrongdoing and possibly set those findings aside. But judgment has been reserved. We have no indication when they will come back to us, but as and when they make that decision, we'll be sure to report on it.
Thanks very much for that, my colleague Sipho Stuurman.